Hello everybody, today we are going to be talking about 8 things that you absolutely need to know before you move to Utah County. I figured I'd walk through a typical Utah County neighborhood as we discuss these things. My name is Micah Olson. I am your Utah County YouTubing real estate agent. I make videos just like this for people just like you so that you can get to know really what it's like to live in Utah County. Some of the pros, some of the cons, and everything that you need to know. So if you're into that kind of information, like and subscribe and follow. I'm gonna make a lot of videos that'll help you out. First off, one of the things that so many people ask me about is how in the world do the road numbers and the addresses in Utah County even work? And it's kind of a unique system. So we start with Center Street and Main Street are basically the center of any town. Center Street will always be running from east to west. Main Street will always be running from north to south. And then as you pass either of those streets, the other street numbers start to count up. So for example, if you were driving on Main Street heading south, when you pass Center Street, the next street you're going to come to will be 100 south, then 200 south, then 300 south. If you were going the other direction, as soon as you cross Center Street, the first street would be 100 north, then 200 north, then 300 north, and it kind of works in a grid pattern. It took me quite a while really to get to know how all of these roads work, but now that I'm here and I go somewhere else, I wonder like how in the world does anybody find their way around town? Once you get to know the road numbers, everything's gonna make sense. It might take you a little while to get used to it, but once you're here and you've been around, it'll make sense and it'll be a great system. The next thing that you're really going to want to understand is how neighborhoods are made up here in Utah. A lot of brand new houses will be sitting right next to a house that was built in 1940 or 1950. A lot of neighborhoods are just not your homogeneous suburban type neighborhoods. There are of course neighborhoods like this one that I'm walking through up here in Elk Ridge that are newer, that were all put together at the same time. But a lot of times you'll be looking online and you'll see a house that looks nice, that looks new. You go out to take a look at it and you're right in the middle of a whole bunch of rundown properties with used cars all over the place and not the neighborhood that you were thinking you were looking at. So my tip on this is really when you're considering a specific house, jump on Google Maps, drive up and down the street using Street View and see if it's really the type of neighborhood that you're hoping to live in. One other just really quick tip is to, as you're doing this Street View and driving around, take a look at power lines. Make sure you don't have power lines all over around the house. This neighborhood that I'm walking through right now, it was well designed, well built, but just the other day I was out at a house, brand new construction home. All of the pictures showed this beautiful new custom amazing house, but as soon as we pulled up, there was a power pole right directly in the middle of the front yard, and the power lines literally ran across the top of that house and then down through the neighborhood. And that's common in a lot of neighborhoods where there's old mixed with new. You know, people didn't really care as much about overhead power lines. In fact, a lot of homes in neighborhoods, that's where they get their power from, is a wire hanging from the main line over directly to feed the house. So be very, very careful as you're looking around. Just take a second to look at the Google Street View, or if you have questions about a specific neighborhood, give me a call and ask me. The next thing that you're really gonna want to understand is the weather. Utah definitely is a place where we have all 4 seasons. Spring and fall are very mild temperatures. It's a great time to get outside, go on some hikes, do some outside activities. Highs in the spring and the fall are usually somewhere between 50 to 70 degrees in the daytime, so very, very mild and nice weather. Lows will typically be in the mid 30s to 40s, so it can get a little bit chilly in the evenings. And one tip for Utah, man, this got me when I first moved to Utah 20 some odd years ago. I'd look out the window, it's sunny and bright, and I think, oh man, spring's finally here. And the next day there'd be snow on the ground, literally, inches and inches of snow. So don't get fooled in the springtime, especially when you think summer's finally coming. Don't be disappointed when you see some storms and see some winter snow. In the summertime, highs will be somewhere in the 80s to 100. I think there's usually 4 to 5 days a year where we hit triple digits. Sure, sometimes in July and August feels like we're getting that hot a lot more often. But typically in the summertime, highs are between 80 to 100. Lows are often in the 50s and 60s, so it cools down really nicely and lets you enjoy your evenings. In the wintertime, typically highs are going to be around the 30s. There might be stretches of a week or two where the high never gets above freezing. And in the evenings, we can end up with temperatures in the 10s, teens, around there. I have been up on some of the ski slopes in the past where it's 4 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour winds and it can feel pretty chilly. One thing that I would highly recommend if you're coming from a warmer climate is to find some sort of winter activity that you love. When I moved here 20 some odd years ago, every February I was so tired of the cold and the snow, and I just couldn't wait until summer was finally here. And we finally had a conversation. I said, you know what, I need to find something that I just love to do in the wintertime. So take up snowshoeing, take up skiing, learn how to snowboard, get a snowmobile, do something that will allow you to actually enjoy the winters. Point number 4 of things that you just really need to know before moving to Utah County kind of goes along with winter weather in a way. You'll hear reports about how bad the air quality is, and it's really something that the state of Utah in general is working on and wants to get better at. We get what we call an inversion sometimes in the winter, and there's low pressure that's holding in smog and pollution, and you might end up with several days where it's kind of mucky and yucky air. I know for me, when we were first here, a lot of times in the winter, it really seemed like there were a lot of bad air days. I actually read a report from the EPA recently that said that we typically have somewhere between 5 to 7 unhealthy air days a year. So I think at times it can feel like the air is a lot more unhealthy than what is actually happening. Okay, item number 5 on the list now is lifestyle. Really consider what type of lifestyle you want before you take a move into Utah County. There's really 3 different types of areas that you'll find in Utah County. There's city, there's suburbs, and there's rural. And honestly, to be frank, I don't know that I would say that Utah County really has a city type of living. You will find some city-ish places in Lehi and Provo, but if you're really looking for that contemporary loft style living in downtown areas, probably you're going to be looking at Salt Lake. Further south, down in Payson and Elk Ridge and Santaquin, you can get into some rural type settings, lots of houses that have large lots, half acre, 1 acre, 2 acres, and it can be really beautiful if that's what you're looking for. And honestly, in those areas, shopping and dining isn't too far away. You're probably within 15 minutes or so of being able to go to a grocery store and find what you want. If you're looking for nightlife and bars and really, really fine dining, you're probably going to want to be about 45 minutes to the north up in the Salt Lake area. Number 6 on the list is a question that I think a lot of people think that a lot of people are asking. It is a question that comes up, and it's important to talk about it if it's something that's important to you. It's probably not as big of a deal as what some people like to make it out to be, and that's the predominant religion in the area, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sometimes people call them the Mormons, sometimes they're called LDS, but there is a very, very high population of people that belong to this religion. I think overall about 55% of the population of Utah is part of the LDS religion. Right in Salt Lake City, it's probably only about 35 to 40%, which is still a pretty big concentration. Down in Utah County, you have some cities that are 75, 80%. But overall in Utah County, about 72% of residents belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So what does that really mean for somebody who's living here? You're probably going to see fewer Starbucks around than what you might have in a different town. You'll see church buildings all over the place. And here and there, you'll see larger buildings that are called temples. Possibly even when you move in, you're gonna have some neighbors stop by with cinnamon rolls or chocolate chip cookies, or people asking if they can help you move in, which I find that kind of cool. One tip that I would give, a lot of times there's neighborhood activities and get-togethers. They do what we call trunk or treats is a big thing here in Utah. They'll have Christmas dinners and all kinds of different celebrations. I would say whether you're part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or not, when you're moving to Utah, and especially to Utah County, integrate yourself as a part of your neighborhood. Ask your neighbors what's going on, join in, they'd love to have you, even if it's at one of their church buildings. You know, a lot of times the activities will be in a church building just because they can use them for free. But really integrate yourself into the community, become part of the community. And I think that you'll find, like so many people, that this Christian religion is in large part like many others. They're concerned about helping people, they're friendly. Utah actually has about a 25% higher birth rate than many places around the country, so they love families. It's really a nice environment, and you're around a lot of great people. Okay, the next thing that you really need to know when you're considering a move to Utah County is, where do you browse properties that are for sale? Where do you browse properties that are for rent? You know, a lot of people coming from larger cities have big sites like Redfin or Craigslist, or places where you can find rentals. A lot of people try to use Facebook, you know, to find rentals. There's really one main site in Utah County where you can find almost every rental that's available if you're looking for a rental, and that website is Rentler, and that's a pretty cool site. You can go in and put in the size of house you're looking for, if you want an apartment, if you want a house, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. You can draw a map and really see only listings that are in these areas. It's a great place to go and find a rental. And from my experience, almost every rental that I've ever seen has been listed on Rentler. Now, where do you look for properties if you're considering a move here? I'm gonna be a little bit biased, and I'm gonna tell you to use my site. It's www.effectivebuyer.com. I actually pay for back-end access to the realtor database, so everything that's listed, anything you would find on Redfin or Zillow or anywhere else, I actually have pushing live stream to effectivebuyer.com. And the cool thing is, unlike all of those big sites, I'm not data mining you and trying to figure out everything that you possibly are interested in. And the second you put your information in, you start getting phone calls from 20 or 30 different agents. So if you want a place just to browse homes, to kind of look around, you don't want your information getting collected and sold, I would highly recommend effectivebuyer.com. It has everything that's for sale in about 90% of Utah. We don't get all the way down into St. George and places like that, but it's a great place to browse. Everything in Utah County that's for sale is on that site. You can find a link down in the description. Okay, let's talk about the next item. Item number 8 is the cost of living. Now, you're gonna hear a lot of reports about cost of living in Utah is higher than the national average. And I think on a lot of the pros and cons videos that I've shot, I've mentioned that our cost of living is above average. We're a little bit higher than the national average for one reason, and that's housing. Our housing prices over the last 3 or 4 years, especially 2020 and 2021, went up dramatically, almost a 50% increase in the cost of housing. And that's because there's such a high demand to live here, and especially to live in Utah and Salt Lake County. So you're gonna find that our average and medium home prices are a little higher than what you would find in many other places around the country. However, you'll probably also find that what you get for that money is above average compared to the rest of the nation. Our median price right now is about $500,000. And for that, you're going to find a house that's probably 2,200 to 2,800 square feet, has 3 to 4 bedrooms. You're probably sitting on a little bit less than 1/5 of an acre on average. And that would probably come with a 2-car garage. So a very nice house, and compared to other major cities, actually quite a bit less expensive. And for other things in the cost of living index, healthcare, transportation, food, dining, things like that, we're actually about right in the middle, right about on par. I think in the most recent information that I saw, groceries and utilities were slightly below the national average, which is a great thing. So there you go, 8 things that you absolutely need to know before moving to Utah County. If you have questions about something else, pop it into the comments below and I'll make a video for you. If you'd like to talk to me directly, book a consultation. You can get right into my calendar in the link down in the description, or give me a call. I would love to chat with you. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Utah County.